welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of the Sit Rep Podcast. Not only are we recording, but we are live. Surprise, we are live. This is going to be a very abbreviated show because it is Gen Con weekend. And you can join the conversation you wish. If you go over to our Discord server, you can jump on. I've posted the link. You should be getting that across all of our platforms. If anybody has a topic they'd like to talk about, we're going to catch up with Jim about Op Center, what we can expect in Episode 2. We'll talk about Episode 1 now that it's been out. We're going to catch up with Ralph and the projects he's working on, and hopefully Chris will be joining us soon to talk about stuff he's been doing over on his site, Walkabout Games. He's doing some play testing on a modern rule set. And then I'm going to talk about what I've been up to as well, and then anything else that comes up in topics. So, as always, we want to welcome Ralph and Jim to the show.
Oh, thanks very much. It's good to be here.
Hey, folks.
Boy, I'm sensing the energy in this room today. It must be the Midsummer Blues. So, as you all know, this is Gen Con weekend, the biggest game show, I would say, in the world. Some people would probably disagree with me and say Essen is the biggest one, but here, at least in the U.S., we'll say it's the biggest one. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and unfortunately, Dawn and I are not there this year to cover it. We had to take a break this year. Our just convention legs had just given out. So we are taking this year off. We'll be back in full steam next year with a full schedule of coverage for different things, and definitely we are doing Historicon next year. I was so jealous when Jim got to go, and I'm sitting here watching him do it, and the stuff that I was seeing, I was like, oh, I so missed out on the chance. So we'll definitely be working on that. So let's talk Op Center.
Oh, okay.
So the first episode came out, and, you know, I'm going to toot our horn, and I'm going to slap you on the back and say that was a really great episode. I liked how you intertwined a lot of gaming into this one, and I liked the big overview of it. I have to ask, Jim, how do you come up with this material?
A wasted, ruined life of reading too many of these books is how it's come up. It really is, I mean, just a lot of work. The as far as like where the material comes from, the only challenge isn't, you know, coming up with the material. It's what to leave out. Because I mean, if anyone's seen the episode so far, we cover what's basically a 30-year war in about 15 minutes. You have to sand off a lot of corners. You have to leave a lot out. And you know, people ask writers, you know, what's the difference between a writer and an author, or, you know, how long would it take you to write, you know, 1,000 words? I'm like, well, I can write 1,000 words in a day. If you want 500 words, give me a week.
Right.
You know, the shorter the content, the tougher it is to come out with. We've been trying to make these episodes shorter and shorter to make them, you know, more digestible, you know, more views, you know, more accessible to the community or whatever. And of course, you know, working in that gaming angle, we never want to lose sight of that gaming angle. This episode, I realized, was kind of heavy on the history and the overview, but again, that the groundwork is kind of laid out, and you know, and you know, for future episodes, it's going to be, you know, more focused on individual aspects of the Vietnam War and how they pertain specifically to the gaming table.
Nice. So all the miniatures and stuff we saw in the first episode, is that all your stuff and your creations?
Yeah. One of the reasons I wanted to do Vietnam is the very scholarly and you know, hard-driven reason being that I had a lot of miniatures lying around for it, and I already had a bunch of photos taken, and, you know, so on and so forth. So it's easier to, you know, it's easier to do. For the Falklands that we did previously, we didn't really have a lot of miniatures for it, so it was a lot of hex encounter stuff. It was a lot of computer games. Naval Command by Rory Crabb, Air War C-21 by Wessex Games, and that was all great. But for this one, I wanted to do something that actually, you know, had some miniatures in it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And I have to ask, where do you find the time to do all that stuff? You know, between creating this content and then you get to do all these, you know, miniature stuff. I can barely find time to tie my shoes.
It's what 3:00 in the morning was made for, and that's not hyperbole. I mean, I'm writing the script while sitting on the toilet. Sometimes it's literally 24/7. Obviously, we all have jobs. I've got a full-time job, doing master material data for a pretty serious tech company. That's at least 10, sometimes 12 hours a day, sometimes weekends. One, sometimes 2 Twitch streams a week. Op Center, 2, sometimes 3 games a week, and YouTube videos on top of that. It's a lot, and that's again on top of the usual full-time job, house, friends, family, girlfriend. It's a lot. I'm averaging about 5 hours of sleep a night, and it's getting a little tough to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I bet it does. So let's talk about the frequency of the Op Center. So Jim and I have been talking, and Jim was cranking out Op Centers left, right, and center. So we wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be adjusting the schedule of the Op Centers because it takes a lot of work in it. I mean, a ton of work, and for one person to be doing all that, besides your real world life. It's just too much and it burns you out. And this is supposed to be fun, and that we want people to be engaged and not to be just a chore. So, what is the schedule coming up for each series? What are we looking at, Jim?
Well, whether by accident or just the way things have worked out, we're falling into this, which is perfectly fine. We're falling into this cadence, so to speak, of a topic being covered in about 4 episodes. The first one was intentional. That was Arbors Relay Wars. There's 4 major Arbors Relay Wars to cover. 1, 2, 3, 4, we're done. The Falklands series was supposed to be 3 episodes. I got halfway through episode 2 in the script and realized that I was not going to make it. So that one became 4. And now Vietnam almost became 4 by default. Vietnam, of course, being, our most recent Op Center topic. So, again, almost by accident, we've fallen into this 4, almost like it was back when, we used to do articles on Tabletop, 4 or so pieces of content per topic. They run out every 2 weeks is kind of what we're aiming at. They take about a week to do. It's about an hour per minute of footage. So, a 25-minute video takes 25 hours. Yeah. So the better part of a work week to actually create, again, working at home and so on, and in the car and wherever you can find an extra 10, 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
And then the week in between is like for actual hobby or something like that. But what was I going to say? So 4 episodes per topic, and then maybe a month off in between. So if for a topic it's going to be 2 months. 4 episodes, 2 weeks equals 8 weeks, roughly 2 months. Take a month off, do the next one. So 2 months on, 1 month off is the summary of that.
Perfect. So and I think what, that makes people look forward to the next series without being overloaded with content. Because after a while, people just kind of get burned out. And the content's amazing. I learn a lot from the shows, to be honest with you. I mean, the amount of stuff that you're able to put in there, I thought I knew Vietnam pretty well, and the depth of the material you put in there, I learn stuff. I really enjoy it when I get to edit it and, make sure, everything looks good before we upload it. So I look forward to it, and I know a lot of people do. And, as this series cranks out, we'll see more people sharing. I've seen some really good comments. I don't know if you've seen them, Jim, but there was a couple comments off, I believe it was the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've replied to the ones on YouTube. Yeah,
so I mean, people are really excited to see it come back out. So on Facebook, I think we've had a few others as well. So it is definitely one of the more happily followed things that we do on the podcast. So what could we look forward to in this next episode? Without giving too much away, obviously.
We're still writing the script, so I really don't know.
Okay.
We have some general topics laid out that we've already talked about in part 1 and in the comments underneath YouTube in part 1, and it's going to be like, okay, we've done the heavy loading as far as the history part of it goes. Okay, we've talked about the Viet Minh, the Viet Cong, the NVA. People often confuse these three different things. They're three very, very, very different things, as I'm sure you know. You were talking earlier about Dien Bien Phu, so you know that there's a big difference between, say, the Viet Cong and the Viet Minh, and where these different groups are located, what their political motivations were, because they weren't all the same. Movies and TV shows, we have a million of them, and one of the unfortunate things that these TVs and movie shows do is they take all communist Vietnamese and they kind of mash it all together into one big, bad guy kind of a facade. And from the perspective of the movie, that might be somewhat forgivable because that's usually told from the grunt infantryman's perspective.
Sure.
The grunt infantryman in a firefight with NLF guerrillas in a rice paddy, somewhere in the Iron Triangle, doesn't really care about the political nuances between the National Liberation Front and, Comsonol and the people up in Hanoi and how they don't always get along. He doesn't care about that. And the movie's trying to portray his perspective, so it kind of makes sense.
Gotcha.
But we've been through all that now. In part one, and so part two, it's again. I'm not trying to be secretive here. It's just we haven't gone that far ahead in the scripts.
Right. Yeah.
Is okay. So we've done the big heavy history part of it, or whatever. Now let's take a look at the different areas of the Vietnam War. So you've got four basic. The Army of Vietnam, ARVN, call them core sectors. The Americans call them, field forces or whatever. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. What those different four areas were like. So you got 4th Corps in the extreme south. That's Mekong Delta. That's where you've got the mobile riverine force. You've got the Brownwater Navy. You've got all the riverboats. You got the Apocalypse Now kind of stuff. That's in the extreme south. How do you build a table for that? What kind of things do you have to look out for? What kind of things should your rule sets entail? Up north to the other extreme, you have 1st Corps. That's Hue City, the DMZ, Khe Sanh, the Rock Pile, Camp Carroll. Very, very mountainous. And you're not fighting Viet Cong guerrillas up there, no matter what you see in the movies. You're fighting NVA regulars, sometimes with tanks. It's a much more conventional war up there. And another thing you don't really see up there is the Army. Up there is almost all Marine Corps. There are some exceptions. 1st Air Cav is up there a little bit. And you have Special Forces groups like Long Vay, the famous tank battle at Long Vay, where Special Forces got overrun by NVA tanks. But by and large, that's a Marine Corps battle. In the middle, you have 3rd Corps. That's a movie. I'm just going to use movies because that's what most people have seen. 3rd Corps, you have what's the name of the movie? Hamburger Hill, the Outshaw Valley, and all that stuff. Mountainous, but not terribly well developed. And in the middle of that, or just south of that, you've got 2nd Corps. That's obviously the biggest corps. That's Khe Sanh. That's where all your Australians are. In other words, don't put Australians up by the DMZ. Don't put riverboats up near the DMZ. Don't put Marines down in the Mekong Delta. Where these different areas of the war were, and it's a quick overview of what kind of terrain you can find in these areas because they are very different. Vietnam was not one big jungle, believe it or not. I know the movies would have us believe that. There's mountains, there's rice paddies, there's areas of tremendous open fields, very long fields of fire. There's urban combat in certain areas. Where the tunnels were, because the tunnels weren't everywhere, where the American carriers were, where you would have air battles, where you would have naval battles. We're pretty much just going to break apart the geography of the Vietnam War and tell people how to, or try to, inspire people or shed some light on what kind of tables they can set up in different periods and different areas, geographical areas of the war.
Right.
And that's mostly going to be in part 2. And again, that's no spoilers or anything. That's already been kind of discussed in part 1 and in the comments.
Excellent. So we'll definitely be looking forward to that. So that'll be out in 2 weeks or a week from the time of the airing of the show. So definitely looking forward to that. So Ralph, let's take it over to you. What have you been working on, or what good stuff have you got for us?
I've not got much good stuff. I've got some news that I've pulled off the web, so there is some stuff out there.
Perfect. Let's
over the past couple of weeks. So I'll do that first. Is Warlord Games, as we all know, are going to Korea. It's everywhere. They released their email saying what was coming out. And they showed off they're working with Sarissa to make a helicopter in MDF.
What?
They're doing the medical chopper that you see at the beginning of MASH. in MDF to 28mm scale.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
It's an MDF chopper. It's on, I think it's on Warlord's webpage as part of the MASH unit. So you can get the MASH figures with basically, I can't remember the make of the helicopter. Jim can go and research it for it. I know it
so is it a Bell helicopter? The Bell, is it the Bell?
It's the Bell, yeah.
A Bell, the bubble nose, which is a Bell.
Yes.
Is it a 12 or 21? I can't remember now. I'll have to look it up. Okay, so it's like the one you saw on the TV
what's
show.
What's interesting is it's the one that you saw that they used for medical evacuations that you saw at the beginning of MASH.
So they're going to make that out of MDF.
Yeah.
Interesting. How are they going to do that?
Well, there's no cockpit in it. There's no canopy, but it'll just be, by the looks of it, when you look at the thing, it's just MDF struts cut to that bubble shape. So what you could then use is some acetate, clear plastic, and put your own bubble on if you wanted to. And just paint it up.
Interesting. Yep. Very interesting.
So that's one of them.
Okay.
In the last Up Center, you on about a game system that someone contacted you about.
Yes.
That was Contact Front.
That's right. Yes.
That was the contact front guys.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, maybe not. There was another one popped up on Facebook. Oh God, this must have been a while ago. This was back in May, and I don't think we ever covered it. There looks like there's a new miniatures game coming out called Delta 10. That's a new miniature skirmish modern game. By the looks of it, you have 3 factions. I'm just trolling through their Facebook now, which is FSB. Let's have a look what he's got. In the demo, he's got FSB and UN Peacekeepers and SAS.
Okay. Interesting.
So that looks like it's the new one. They've got a Facebook page called Delta 10 Games.
I think I've heard of it, but now that you say that, it does vaguely sound familiar.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting on them. They're supposed to be sending us a review copy of the rule set for. Is it Contact Front?
Yeah, Contact Front.
Yep. So interested to get that. I think we're going to start doing some more review stuff. Here. I'm still. I was hoping Chris would jump on because I wanted to hear his impression because he's playtesting Ultra Combat Modern. I don't have how did he get the rule set and I didn't get the rule set?
It was in the Kickstarter. They released a PDF. I've got the PDF.
Oh my God. You mean I've had it all this time and I didn't know it?
Probably, yeah.
Oh my God. I'm an idiot.
There you go.
All right.
Because there's that Dougie and Carl playtesting at the local games club where I'm at.
Yeah.
They've been playtesting it as well.
Yeah.
They're also doing those 2 guys have been doing some Chechnyan war stuff with Fireteam Modern. They've been playing Fireteam Modern. And then of course the other news as well seems to be that Empress is expanding its NAM range exponentially with all the new minis that seem to be coming
they
out.
have quite a few going on. And I was just looking at some other ones. Speaking of Vietnam, Jim, Gringo 40, is that what they're called?
40.
Yeah.
They have.
Those are really good.
Yeah, they have. Looks like a LT or captain or we'll say CO and his RTO, and painted up. It looks really good. I mean, really good. I mean, I have seen Gringo 40 like when I went to Salute a couple of years back. I saw some of the stuff there, and I never really gave it too much. But I'm really liking what they're producing. And Eureka, I think, has some Vietnam miniatures too, don't they?
Yeah, Eureka do some.
But those Gringo 40s look really good. I think they look very proportionate. Nothing looks, out of whack. The rifle looks a little big, but, at 28 mil, it's kind of hard.
Not as big as some people's.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen some 28 mil Vietnam figures where the the damn M16, which is a small rifle, looks like a German anti-tank rifle from World War I or something. It's like 12 feet long or something. But those Gringo 48s, I think it was Warhammer Grimace on Tabletop was painting some of them up and showcasing what he'd done. I mean, of course, he's a great painter, but I mean, also just the detail in the miniature. I mean, down to you could tell whether it was an M16 or an M16A1 or an M16A2.
Yeah.
The handguards, the front side assembly, where the forward assist was on the upper receiver. That kind of detail on a 28 millimeter miniature was really, really amazing, I thought.
Gee, was it the Gringo 40 that had was it the LT holding the radio with the M60? The one you're thinking of, he's got a radio guy, and the officer's holding like the telephone cord from the back of the radio.
He's got the handset, and his M16 is slung, and then the RTO has his in his right hand, just holding it by the front. Like we used to, if you remember, Jim, how you used to just grab it around the connector, where you can pull the shrouds off. The ring, you slide back to pull the shroud, how you you're in front of the carry handle.
Where you're absolutely not supposed to grab it. You're supposed to grab it while the carrying handle that they provided for you, but you never do.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Empress have done something similar. They've got an RTO with an officer and two other RTOs. One of them's kneeling and one of them's standing. The RTO with the officer's holding a Thompson.
Wait a minute.
A Thompson?
Submachine gun?
Yeah.
What the hell's he doing with a Thompson?
That's definitely Vietnam set. Well, there were Thompsons in Nam, I think, still.
I don't think so.
Well, it's definitely a Thompson by the looks of it that he's holding.
I agree that it's in the, I would have
who's
believed
this,
it's in the miniature.
Empress, yeah, it's in the Vietnam set. It's Nam 15 is the set. It's £7 for the 4 miniatures.
Now, I'll say this. There's one of my people ask me what's a good Vietnam War movie. One of the ones that I always recommend. I mean, everyone knows Platoon, everyone knows Full Metal Jacket. There's a movie called The Iron Triangle. And what makes it interesting, it's a cheap movie. I mean, it's not, Full Metal Jacket. It's one of those straight to cable, straight to video ones that came out in the late 80s after things like Hamburger Hill, Full Metal Jacket, and Platoon. It's part of that. It's a part of that, second wave generation. But it's a good one because this comes back to the conversation we're having. I promise. It's a good one because it's one of the only movies that takes a real stab, and it does a pretty good job at showing the communist perspective. One of the main characters is a VC or an NLF, if you prefer, operative, and one of them is an American captain. I think it's Jeff Bridges plays him. But one of the main plot points is, and this maybe is where they got the idea for that miniature, is one of the main plot points is two of the communist characters fighting over a captured Thompson submachine gun.
Huh.
So they were around, but they weren't issued by the U.S. Army. Got to remember, they gave a whole bunch of weapons to Arvin. Arvin didn't get the best stuff. They got some of the, the second-rate stuff. They might have gotten a Thompson. There was, of course, a huge war before the first Indochina War against the French and the Viet Minh. There's going to be Thompsons all over the place there. There's probably some Thompsons lying around, but the fact that an American officer or American NCO is carrying a Thompson, I'll be honest with you, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now, and he sure does have a Thompson in his the RTO does. So
that makes even less sense because the RTO is a corporal at most.
I've just Googled an image search and there's a shitload of images of US troops, actual photos from Nam carrying Thompsons. So, but it was pre it was probably early Vietnam.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, the only thing,
what they're going to be carrying is either a Car 15 or a cut down AR 15.
Yeah, that was one thing. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this picture of the miniature with holding the Thompson was I'm thinking, is this French? Are these guys supposed to be represented as French? When they came back after World War II to Vietnam, because I imagine some of them had, some then, but I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I am no expert in Vietnam, but anything post 65, 66, they were pretty much using M16s, we're not talking A1s. We're talking the original M16 model. So
the original M16, the M14 battle rifle.
Yeah.
NCOs and officers sometimes would carry the cut-down M14. If some Yahoo is walking around with a Thompson, that's something that they found at a pawn shop in Saigon, and his captain needs to slap him upside the head one time. No, I'm serious, because number one, he's not carrying the right weapon. It's not effective at that part of the war. It's firing pistol ammunition, for crying out loud. And by the way, where are you getting all that 45 ACP from? Because your supply point isn't carrying it. That's a posed photograph. That's no.
Okay, so I'm looking at the pictures Ralph sent. The first picture is a Thompson with a guy. He is not military. He looks like a legionnaire or something.
There you
like
go.
That.
Rest my case.
There is a Navy guy, freaking Navy, carrying a Thompson on a boat. So that could be Riverine guys. Maybe they had it.
Oh, who knows? I don't know about the Navy.
Yeah, those Navy people. And then you've got Arvin carrying a submachine Thompson, which I would totally believe.
Absolutely.
Because they got everything we didn't want.
Absolutely.
And then
everything we didn't want.
Some of the descriptions that they were given to militia and defense.
And then you have a CIA, Max Sog, showing some Arvin guys how to use a Thompson. So but U.S. troops.
Those four examples make perfect sense.
Now there's a picture of a Leatherneck from the 1st Marine Division with the Thompson in the Tet Offensive. So and he's an RTO. So
get that Article 15 ready for him.
Here's what I'm going to believe. During the Tet Offensive, obviously this was not their issued weapon, but they picked them up whatever they could get during the offensive. And then there's a quote from Captain Dale Dye, who everybody knows is a military advisor in a lot of movies, who said he saw a number of
he calls himself
M1, A1 Thompsons in Vietnam. So it says many of the advisors to the Vietnamese took opportunity to acquire and carry them.
Yes.
And then it was of guys working the Navy market time ops offshore. So, I mean, for close quarter on a ship, sure, I could see that because it is a pistol round. But it was not common issue by any means. So
it was an issue.
But it's interesting that
this is stuff that you're going to pick up off the street or in a pawn shop, or God forbid, off of somebody's, off of an enemy casualty. Thompsons are going to be. Vietnam is going to be awash in Thompsons.
Yeah.
Part one of that Op Center series is. This war started as, ironically, the Viet Minh and Ho Chi Minh supported by the OSS during World War II against the Japanese. So as far as who put Ho Chi Minh and his communists in business, that's the CIA. And, draw your own conclusions from there. There's going to be thousands of Thompsons poured into Vietnam to support that war. And those Thompsons didn't just go away, when the war ended. You're going to find them all over the place. But as far as, our American, either Marine, Army, ground, air cav, or any of those units issued with the Thompson, it's a flat no.
Yeah.
Or anybody's going to be carrying one as some sort of, bullshit prestige weapon. Again, that's just a lapse in military discipline. And yeah, it's definitely possible. Other movies have cited it. They have an American guy carrying one. And by the way, he's also the first guy to die in the movie. So draw your conclusions there too. Iron Triangle. Seriously, check it out. I think it's free on YouTube. It's a little lower in quality, and you're going to see a Thompson. The Thompson is practically a star in that movie, but it's something that some of the characters fight over because it's a prestige weapon. It's old, it's an antique, and it has some kind of non-military value assigned to it because of reasons. So were they in country? Absolutely. Were they assigned to the U.S. military? No.
So there's that. Ralph, what else you got in the news for us?
That's really it. Apart from Mantic posted up, I don't know if it was Mantic or it was somebody else, and this is coming out of Gen Con. Mantic are doing a load of, how they did The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Terrain bits. They're doing a load of vehicles.
Oh, really?
Modern vehicles. Yes. I'll see if I can find the article. It was posted, I think, to the Walking Dead group.
Like a civilian vehicle?
SUV. Yes, cool. SUVs, awesome. Things like that, which will be perfect for 28mm Spectre, contact fronts, ultra combat, things like that. It looked like one of the vehicles that was shown off. I'll see if I can find it. It was in a render, so it was a 3D render, one of them, and it was a what do you call it? A mini.
A Mini Cooper.
So,
We can stop.
just
like
the Mini Cooper and things like that.
we can stop buying matchboxes now
Yeah.
because the scale's never quite right. They're too big for 72,
Just enough
and they're too
for
big
work.
for 56. They're too small for 56.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we'll have to keep. So that's going to be part of their like terrain crate stuff that they do.
I don't know if it's going to be terrain crate or what. It was just posted that they were showing some stuff off. I think probably at the booth at Gen Con. So these were photographs from both more than actually off Mantic's site themselves. I'm going to try and see if I can find the post anyway, and I'll link it back into the Facebook.
Awesome. That's cool.
And hobby-wise, I've been thinking and looking, and there's lots of nice terrain out there, as we all know. Yeah. But a lot of the terrain is expensive, especially some of the really nice ones.
Uh-huh.
And thinking of gaming, with a budget, I'm probably personally going to start building my own.
Oh, okay.
Using possibly foam board. It's durable, it's lightweight, and it's probably going to be easier to store. So I'm possibly going to start at first digging some paper sheets out and mapping out what I want to build in paper, and then buying some foam board and building out some stuff in foam board. So I'm probably looking at small adobe buildings, maybe a hotel or a largish building. Things like that. So, because I've been looking as well as I've managed to start getting some terrain pieces. So I went to Antonosity's workshop and bought 2 of the commercial bins, which are basically wheelie bins with lids.
Uh-huh.
They're the big commercial ones that you see outside. And then I bought some of the 5 sets of rubbish piles as well, which are perfect because they're 28mm scale. So it's perfect for scatter, but it'll sit around, the edges of the buildings and stuff like that. So,
Nice.
And I've just been watching some terrain stuff as well. So
by foam board, you mean like it's like
foam board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just make sure we're talking about the same thing. It's like
It's mountain
very
board.
very thin. Okay, I've tried to build some walls with foam board and with mixed results because I'm not very good at that kind of thing. My only if you've ever built anything with foam board before, buy some nice new razor blades and keep them sharp. The second that blade gets even slight, we use razors to a certain point. Like after they're, I found that foam board only works when your blade is like heart surgery sharp. It's got to be very, very, very sharp.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it binds up and it gets all crunchy. And it was fine for my walls because they're supposed to be a little bullet marked anyway. But if you want nice, clean lines, it's a less forgiving material as far as the sharpness of your razor than I found other materials.
Yeah, it was foam board, and the other one that I'll probably invest with is a hot glue gun. Can't go wrong with a hot glue gun at all. PVA could be a little bit of a pain in the behind, and it takes a little bit longer to dry. But hot glue is almost instant, and its drying time is a bit quicker as well. So, but there's a load of stuff out there that I've been watching. There's a load of terrain, like there's the terrain shooter, of course, but there's Black Magic Terrain, Wylock's Armory. There's loads of YouTube channels that people are building terrain and doing it for role playing or for miniatures gaming. So, but I just thought the buildings are nice, but they're not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started modifying an MDF building I've got, and I thought, well, I want to put a balcony on it. I want to put a couple of balconies on it and add not an entranceway, but a courtyard to it.
Uh-huh.
And it just didn't look big enough. And when you take each of the floors off, because it's 5 floors, I wanted to try and put some dividing walls into it. And you look at it and go, it's not, you could have one small flat in this 5-story building. So that would be like 5 rooms. And it's like, no, I want to make it a little bit more engaging, shall we say.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I think I'm going to start messing around with some terrain building.
Perfect. It sounds great.
Keeps us off the computer.
The only thing I found with glue guns is you really got to control the amount that you're, because sometimes it'll come out really thick, and then when you put stuff together, you get a lot of overflow. So that's the only thing. You have to get a really good glue gun. Don't just get the cheapest one you can find. So
no, I was looking at a possibly a Bosch or something.
There you go. So
I was looking at a wireless. I was looking at like a battery one as well.
Yeah,
not
perfect.
a cabled one, so it's easier to control.
Perfect.
But we'll see.
So, Jim, thanks for covering Present Arms on Thursday night. I heard you were doing counters.
Did our best.
With
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it was Rhodesia, right?
Yeah, we've okay. So apparently, either our efforts here, SitRep or Op Center or whatever, has inspired a couple other people to start up their own YouTube channels, which is amazing. Actually, puts a warm feeling in my heart. One of them is a website called The Grizzly Cave. Quick shout out to The Grizzly Cave, run by my friend Dylan over there, LSR 2590 on tabletop. He does mostly Napoleonic, but he did venture into moderns once with a war that he knows about, the Rhodesian Civil War of, I think it's 1965 to 79. Unlike Vietnam, this is a war I don't know very much about, so I was totally relying on him on this one. And he also on tabletop, he started a project where he's actually trying to make up his own, Valor and Victory counters. And I was like, oh my God, someone else is making up Valor and Victory counters. Everyone on this website has heard me talk about Valor and Victory, so I was super excited about that. And it just, it feels good when someone else is doing something that you've kind of inspired them to do or whatever. So again, you had some other stuff going on, so we agreed that I was going to run Present Arms that night. I was like, okay. I reached out to Dylan, and I was like, do you want to take a swing at these Rhodesian Civil War counters? And he was like, yeah, sure, you can do the work for me. I appreciate it. So we sat down for 90 minutes and we cranked out some quick counters. Whether or not we're ever going to run this game on one of our weekend web games, we could probably do that. Whether or not we would ever cover this on a Op Center, because it's been requested like once or twice. Whether or not we're ever going to cover on Op Center is a little more debatable. Number one, I know very little about it. I have to read a lot. I mean, I don't go to Wikipedia, copy paste, and then that's my script. That's not how we roll.
Right.
I do feel like I have to know what I'm talking about before I try to present on it. In Rhodesian Civil War, I really don't. But what I am finding is that there's a little bit of a war is always terrible and nasty and ugly, especially modern war, especially civil wars. This Rhodesian conflict has a little bit of an additional stink to it that I don't know if we're going to avoid, but if we do it, we're going to have to be super, super careful.
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit of a stigma to it, and it's not entirely undeserved as far as how it was, pursued by the two sides. There's a very, very steep racial incline to it that I'm not terribly thrilled about. But just to make up some counters, we made up some counters. It was fun. And that was the episode. Again, I was just trying to fill in, while you were taking care of some things.
Well, I appreciate it.
Chris just posted up some pictures, didn't he? Because he's going to start doing some painting tutorials for the mounted Rhodesian Scouts.
Yeah, I think he did that a couple weeks back.
On Walkabout. Yeah, he posted up the primed minis from Eureka, because Eureka minis are the only ones that I've seen do those miniatures.
Yep.
But sort of linking into that, I'm on a Facebook group called Modern African Bush Wars. There's a Facebook group for it which covers probably all of the different types of African bush wars that have been going on within the period. People have been posting up their miniatures and stuff. So from a miniatures point of view, some really nice things. But from the war point of view, yes, it's one of those.
I'm not saying we couldn't do it, but we just have to be super, super careful.
It's a very touchy topic.
Yeah.
It is.
Let's be honest. There was a lot of ethnic stuff that it's very sensitive, especially in these days and times. And you have to. It's tough. Let's just put it that way. It's
down to the bones. It's your typical. There is the British are pulling out of one of their former colonies, and now there's two groups left over that want to run the war, that want to run that country afterwards, after the British pull out. You've got the people that were in power before, the post-colonial power, and then you've got the Marxists, because the Soviets are trying to play Cold War proxy or whatever. That's no different than 100 other wars in Africa, wars in Asia, wars in even Latin America. However, this one, the British didn't want to pull out because the British Empire at the time, or the British Commonwealth at the time, had a general policy of we're not pulling out of a country until we've established, at least this was the idea. They were a little hypocritical about this. We're not pulling out until we establish majority rule. Well, the majority of the rule was not established. The white Rhodesians were definitely not the majority in that country. Mm-hmm. They pulled out anyway. Now we have the white Rhodesians, who their only real sponsor is apartheid-era South Africa. And everybody on the communist side happens to be, people of color. So, and then the war is fought with no rules on either side. And it's very, very nasty. It's very, very bloody, a lot of atrocities, and it's very sharply divided among racial lines, with one side basically supported by white supremacists. It's a weird one. So again, no, nothing against people who make miniatures about this stuff. We made up counters for it here on SitRep, but as far as whether or not we ever cover it on Op Center or anything, I mean, people have requested it, and I feel like I don't want people to feel like we're ignoring them. This one is a potential minefield, and that might be why we don't. We do kind of want to watch our step. Sadly, there are plenty of modern wars to pick from. Yeah. Let's not pick one that might get us in trouble.
If people are interested in gaming in that period or looking at that period, I know Force on Force did a source book called Bush Wars, which I think you can still get your hands on. So if people are interested, might be worth
the PDF is still available out there.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to look at it in a strictly tactical view, have fun. Just if you're going to get it, because again, Op Center is usually higher level. We first thing we do is get all the politics out of the way. That's where it gets a little weird. But if you're just getting together with some friends, you want some asymmetrical, air mobile kind of a game. It's very air mobile war. If you want to get air mobile into some tactical gaming, then have fun. Just don't be surprised if some people kind of raise an eyebrow. You have to kind of watch out for it.
Yep. All right. Well, let me talk a little bit about what I've been up to, because I want to acknowledge a few people. So the previous week, on Present Arms, I painted up the U.S. soldier for our Ultra Combat Modern from Dish Dash Games. And I did that on the podcast and on the live stream, excuse me. And Andrew Dickinson made a comment, and he said, is there any chance of a write-up on how you do it? So, Andrew, I will definitely work on that this week, and I'll get that posted up. So I'll take a step on how I did the camo. It's not competition worthy, but it's definitely tabletop standard.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and it isn't really that hard. And I painted it from, primed to fully done within that, 90 minutes, Jim? I think it was.
Yeah,
so,
90 to 100 minutes tops.
Yeah, so, for one figure. So once you got it down, it's, you could probably get through. So I'm more of a speed painter than, it depends on what I'm working on. Most of my miniatures I will speed paint through. Very rarely will I do something for a long time. And then also I completed, finally, the Spectre Miniatures Razor with crew. Finally got that done and posted pictures of that. So I just got to do a base for it.
So don't you have another one of those?
Yeah, I have another one that I will actually take my time on and do it bit by bit instead of putting it together and then trying to paint it. So it's definitely a challenge when you've got all that stuff in there to get a good paint job on it. But it looks all right. It looks all right.
You know what? I know that's the right way to do it. I never do my vehicles that way.
Yeah.
I build it and then base it and spray paint it. I never. Oh, you should paint the guys before you put them in the vehicle. Man, this isn't a scale model. I don't. I never have the patience for that.
I've just picked up another Humvee from Spectre as well, so I've got a Humvee to build and paint to go with the other one that I've got. So
I still have the JRTV to build.
On the Spectre website.
Yeah,
I was looking at the one on Spectre.
Yeah, the Spectre one.
Yeah, Yeah, the one on the front of their page, though, the grey one that they've got next to all the mercenaries or the PMCs. I'm thinking of doing it in that type of grey instead of doing it in the green and tan, the green and khaki that I've got this one done in.
Awesome. So a couple other things I wanted to do. Nice. Was going to acknowledge Johnny Grogan posted something on the 31st of July. He sent us a link to I don't know if it's a new game, but I'm not familiar with it. Let me bring it up here. Tango Down by Tiny Battle Publishing. It's a square encounter game, and it's basically a house clearing operation, so CQB. So I'm going to take a look at that, see how that goes here. I'm going to order it up and try that. And then our buddy Piers sent us some play testing for Battle Group North Hag. So I'm really interested. And he posted some pictures of some 10 mil Soviet troops, I think it was. And they look pretty good. So I'm really anxious to get that on the table, especially at 10 mil.
Right.
And so I'm very excited for that. And I'm really excited to try and get some 6 mil gaming in as well. I'm going to order up some GHQ armor and get painting on that. And so when we have one of our
good girl, GHQ,
yeah,
old school.
So when we have one of our game weekends, did we ever decide what we're calling those? I think, we're going to get a game together of, I don't know, Team Yankee or we'll come up with some rule set that we can play 6 mil, and we'll get a big group together and we'll have a battle after, we work on our projects. So I just think 6 mil to me is just a really good scale especially for armor.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put money in the pot. Ariski's going to talk about scale again.
Woo-hoo!
As far as what's the best scale for moderns or whatever, if you're doing infantry and skirmish, 28 millimeter is great, because it's not whether the games are too big or too small in scale or whatever. I think sometimes my arguments get a little oversimplified. It's just that the difference between an infantry scale weapon and an armored scale weapon, or artillery or air or whatever, is so huge that one scale doesn't really do a good job. I mean, Team Yankee tries, but a lot of these games don't really encapsulate. On a 6 mil table, infantry should be able to shoot out to 1 inch, and artillery would be able to shoot beyond the table. Armor should be able to shoot beyond the table, and you should be playing on 10-foot tables. So again, it's you have a whole bunch of games that you play. Pick the best tool for the job. If you want to play infantry, modern infantry,
yep,
28 millimeter is great, because infantry weapons are so much shorter ranged than most people think. A lot of people in infantry fight with submachine guns. That's pistol ammunition. You're maybe 100 feet. Even assault rifles are much, much shorter than a traditional rifle bullet. 500 yards tops. That's if you're sitting still and the enemy's sitting still, which, take a guess how often that happens.
Right.
So really it's maybe 100 yards effective combat range or whatever. And tanks' effective combat range is 3,000 meters. And yes, most battlefields do have lines of sight that long. So it's like a 30 to 1, disparity. So yeah, 28 millimeter is great for infantry, skirmish Sanguine, ultra combat. 28 millimeter, yes, 100%. Once you get into tanks, helicopters, artillery pieces, you're up at battalion, brigade, maybe even division level combat. You got to go with 6 mil, and even 6 mil is a compromise. Not to sound too much like Ariskini, but you really should be playing in hex encounters or some other non-miniature type game, unless you're playing on a tennis court, in which case, God bless, and please invite me to your game. I would love to play on your 40-foot table. I saw some at Historicon; they were amazing. But
speaking of Historicon, Jim, did you get to see that Force on Force table, that big African one that
I saw there? 3 Force on Force tables. They are on the front page of On Tabletop. I did make sure that they all. There was one modern table that I did admittedly miss. That was the oil derrick one. I walked past it 3 times, but that's a very, very fast convention. You rent or not rent, but you book a table for like 3 hours, 4 hours, and then you are gone because there's somebody else with their boxes of miniatures waiting to take that table, and it's on a very tight schedule, and they don't play around.
I think so it was on tabletop. It was that big. It was the big one where you had two teams going at, like one had an extraction point and a mission.
That's my content. I actually put that up there. I think Jerry was doing the interview. That was me behind the camera.
Yeah.
So we did that one, and then there was another one, a road trip in the jungle or something. So there was at least 2 Force on Force tables in Force on Force standard 20 millimeter. There was 10 millimeter Mein Panzer with M1s versus T80s. It was nice to see the correct Soviet tank on the table for a change, and nice to see what else. There was, again, the only one that I do regret that I missed was that oil platform one. That thing was an oil platform in 28 millimeter. It was at least 3 or 4 feet up off the table. It was absolutely huge. They must have had a whole minivan just to bring that stupid, oil rig.
All right, somebody's going to rub that one in, because I've been trying to design that for a year now.
Like I said, every time I walked past it, it was like between games or whatever. So I never got to see it in action. We never interviewed him. We never did the write-up, which, again, we tried to cover everything. We couldn't. It was just too much. And there was only 3 people there. I don't know if you could open it up and move around guys inside or whatever, but from the outside, the scale was right. It looked really nice. It was absolutely huge. It was a massive effort. God knows just to build, let alone just bring it there. It was a great looking table, but yeah, there were some moderns there.
Awesome.
Another one that we missed was, I did want to get this one, and you know what? We were going to take some heat for it. I don't give a damn. It was American Presidential Race 2020, and it was so satirical. It was a zombie apocalypse game. A zombie apocalypse game in America in the year 2020 with, all the red states on one side, all the blue, there was like a CNN van. It was flipped over. It was overrun by Fox News guys. There was a school right next to let's just say it was a gentleman's club, but the gentleman's club was named like Big Guns or something. It had like 2 cross M4 carbines on there. It was just a snapshot of everything that is just wrong with America. And it was just put on this table, and the guy was just like, I dare you to say something about it. It was a great American satirical kind of a table, and it was all, it was like 2 zombie hordes. And one zombie horde, everyone was dressed in blue. One zombie horde, everyone was dressed in red. And it was just like, just bathe in the subtext. Just go ahead and drink it in. It was great. It was great. But we went to talk to him. I was like, you got to get this on camera. And he was busy setting up his table. And he just didn't have time for us. So there were a couple modern tables that we did miss. Last Night on Earth. What was it? No, I'm sorry. Last Kids on Earth was a fun one that we did get. And it was a kids zombie game, which I found, which sounds weird, but they pulled it off. And it was a bunch of kids were up in their treehouse having a playtime or like a sleepover.
Uh-huh.
And during that night, the zombie apocalypse struck, and now everybody's a zombie. And now these kids that happen to have that or happen to be up in that treehouse all night, they didn't get zombified, but now they have to rush out and get snacks. And so you basically had a pack of Twinkies was your objective marker, and you have to fight through all the zombies or whatever. And it was adorable. It was great.
Hilarious.
Did get that one, but yeah, there were some that we missed, but there was a lot that we did actually get for Force on Force.
Excellent.
There's just something else as well that we put a shout out. I'll put a shout out for. It's Alex's full battle rattle.
Yep,
it's his birthday today.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
happy birthday, Alex!
Yes. Yeah, so we might as well give him a shout out. Yeah. He's been good to the sit rep when he's been on. So yes, it's his birthday today.
So I'll be painting up some more of his Canadians probably on the next Present Arms. So be on Thursday night. I'll be painting.
Is that with map? Are you going to be doing the map pass then as well?
Yeah, I'll be doing it again. So we'll see. All right.
Really, at these scales, though, isn't camouflage just pretty much an exercise of fake it till you make it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must admit, I use the Spectre guide for doing multicam, and it works really well.
Yeah, it does. I use that on the Razer guys, so I follow theirs. But you know what? my personal approach to doing camo now on these is I print up. I'll go to Google and I'll put in whatever camo pattern I'm going to paint, and I'll print up a color sheet of the pattern, and then I look at because camo is layers. So I look at the layer. So I say, all right, what is the initial layer? What's the most obvious majority of the camo?
Is absolutely true. When you look at any American camouflage or any camouflage at all, you can look at it, and you don't even have to be like a graphic designer or anything. You just look at it, and you can tell those colors were applied in a certain order.
Yeah.
And you want to get that order right, and then you just want to get that proportion right. How much black is in American desert camouflage? Maybe a couple dots.
Right.
And the point is just to not overdo it.
Exactly. So, and at 28 mil, it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, and just, proportion
keyword
is a lot.
Little. Yeah, keyword being little.
Yeah.
I found it a little therapeutic as well when I was doing my Spetsnaz, especially because I used the multicam for the Spetsnaz because I thought it just worked. And when I was painting them, I could, I based them all black, and then I went over all with that base green. Is it grey green that they used?
Mm-hmm.
And then just went in and just did it like the heavy machine gunner that's got the backpack with the belt fed one. I did his armor and I did the backpack and just Russian uniform green and didn't do any other additional colors with it and stuff. And the 12 of them look really good. Actually, I'm really pleased. They're the best set of minis that I think I've painted in a while. So they look really nice.
That's definitely a key is how they look like when they're all together.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a group of 12 special forces, like a 12-man unit, I think they look really good on the table and stuff. So
so I mean, it's I agree with you in a sense, Ralph, that it's therapeutic, but after you get to the 10th, 11th, 12th, it's like painting Napoleonics after the 100th one. Oh my God, I'm tired of painting red.
Here's the trick for painting miniatures like that. And I did this for for my desert, my modern day, Desert Storm War on Terror Marines. And again, my American Revolution guys, because that's almost as bad as Napoleonic. Don't paint like one figure at a time. Just paint them all red, then paint all the white, then paint all the black or whatever. That way, if, God forbid, you get tired of it and you quit, at least now you have a usable army. They all look the same.
Right.
Don't try to paint one guy down to his belt buckle and then go on to the next guy and start that, because you're going to get like 3 guys in and you're going to get bored of it.
Yeah.
Paint them all like assembly line style so that, God forbid, when you do run out of steam, at least you've got a tabletop army. 3 colors and up.
Yeah. Definitely. I tell you what I did pick up, which I quite like, is I did get it from OTT as I bought the Colours of War book from Battlefront.
Oh, yeah?
It's actually, I mainly got it for the Team Yankee and the stuff, and the modern stuff in the back, which is actually, it's a really, really nice book as well for sort of looking at colour schemes and stuff. So it's if you can get it reasonably priced, I would say that's a useful guide for people. If they want to paint, especially anything. I mean, it does World War II as well as modern.
Perfect.
So for moderns, it's really good.
All right.
I mean, I've got my black SAS in assault gear ready. They're all primed black. So what I'm going to do is get the airbrush out, and I've got the AK interactive set. It's German Panzer set. Now, it's not. The set isn't blacks. It's a collection of different shades, and it looks like it's shades of blue-grey.
Yeah.
So you've got a very dark shade right the way to a light shade. So what I'm going to do is the bottom half of the minis are going to get done in the darkest shade, and then at the top I'm going to do it in sort of the next shade or the next shade after that up, so it looks like it's a blend of colours. On the overalls, and then I'll go in and do the webbing and the weapons and things in a different color.
Like a dark blue gray, you said?
Yes, it's like a blue gray almost.
For what kind of miniatures are you painting?
These are SAS assault. They wear, when you see them in the black overalls.
Okay, I got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's them.
at the at Historicon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So well, I've got them all primed black, and they've all got I got the bug of doing them after I saw the Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare single player trailer, because all of the guys in there were this, it's SES, but they've got the quads.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the quad optics. Okay. So they've all got the quad optics in, and of course I found another way of adding the quad optics to spec. That is a little bit of green stuff on Milliput. Okay. Where the optics sit, and then just pop the optics on. And it just makes so much of a difference than trying to stick a bit of glue and then watch your fingers be stuck together while you're holding a small piece of metal.
Right.
Metal's tough to glue together.
It is.
It is. I mean, I use Gorilla Glue. I use Gorilla Gel Glue, and if you get any, I'm allergic. I must be allergic to it, because if I get anything on my fingers, I just sneeze constantly for about 3 days.
I don't know about Gorilla Glue, but the gel glue, they sell a type of gel glue over here. Yes. Put it on there, let it sit for about a minute, and then stick the piece. Basically, it's almost half dry, and that's when it gets really adhesive. Yeah. That's when I have good luck with it. If you just try and stick it on there right off the bat, it always comes apart. But we were talking about Team Yankee miniatures a second ago. There was a guy at Wally's Basement at Historicon who had a fully painted, and it was well painted too. It was almost as good as mine. No, I'm just kidding. A fully painted, my miniatures aren't the best. A fully painted West German army. 10 leopards, 20 martyrs of different types, the Fuchs, about 100 infantry, the whole 9 yards, in perfect German 1980s camouflage, $850.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, man, that's a lot of money. And I don't have anyone I'm playing Team Yankee against.
Yes.
And I already have a Bundeswehr army. But he had the P-105 helicopters, the P-105 helicopters. It was a nice army. I hope he sold it, because he deserves credit for his work. But it was. I was like, oh, if I didn't already have a German army, and $850 is a lot of money, but I could have talked him down to maybe $700. But still, that's
a lot of money for an army, Jim.
It was a big army. It was a big army, and it was well painted. And again, is it that big? Is it that much money? Yes. Or am I going to throw away 3 months of my life working on this? It's if you look at it in those terms, how much money do I make in 3 months? I make more than $850.
Yeah,
it's actually not a bad deal.
Yeah. Chris, are you
just
on the
before
line?
We start as well?
Hello.
I was just going to say,
Hey!
before Chris jumps in as well, I'd just like to do a shout of sorts of some other news that dropped this week as well, which was the trailer. Speaking of video games, which is my other hobby, the trailer for the multiplayer part of Call of Duty Modern Warfare dropped.
So good.
Chris knows what I mean. It's like, oh.
Okay, all right. Before you get on your love fest for this game, I got to say something. Is this the one?
Do you guys need some time alone, or
So I got to ask.
Is this one?
I saw a trailer where they're in the woods.
Yep.
And then the dude lights up a cigar or some crap like that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hold on now. Hold on, because the drill sergeant in me is about to come out. What the bleeping hell are you doing?
Up, G.
Ruining light discipline on a tactical maneuver.
Light them up, G.
What the heck? I know it's a video game, but if you're going to make it simul-realistic, why would you light up a cigar with a big-ass cherry in the middle of the woods in NVG where you're blinding your own people and letting the bad guys see you?
They were at night doing this?
Yes.
It was how they introduced. It was just an introduction scene, is what they were doing, because the character
with a Thompson too.
No, they weren't. But the reason they did that, I can explain why. I know why they did that scene.
I know why they did it. They're a bunch of non-military MFers.
Yeah, there is that. But the character that with the cigar, and Chris will know this, and if you've played the original Modern Warfare, the lead character in it, or the lead non-player character, is a guy called Captain Price, and that was his signature after that mission. So at the very end of the first mission in Modern Warfare, after you get off the container ship, he pulls up the traditional sort of SES 1980 style gas mask that they're wearing and lights a cigar. And that was sort of the signature. This character has been with the franchise right the way through. The new Modern Warfare is technically a reboot and a reset to what the original was 10 years, is it, Chris? Or was it a bit longer than that?
Yeah, about 10 years.
So
yeah,
it was
so the original
So they
Modern
went
Warfare,
totally Hollywood.
10 years ago, they rebooted. Yeah, they went totally Hollywood with it. We can. That scene, everybody was like, oh, so the new Captain Price was back. That's why they did that scene. Yes, I can understand.
It's Luke Skywalker lighting up a lightsaber, but it was an officer doing this.
Yes, he's a
that explains
sergeant.
a lot right there too.
I'm sorry. So
it's Captain Price. Sorry, it's Captain Price. He's an SES officer.
So it's an officer. See, that explains it. He knows no one's going to come up and butt stroke him in the back of the Kevlar for doing that.
They're replaceable. Officers are dime a dozen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Call Quantico.
They released the trailer and some gameplay for the multiplayer part, which is the way new Call of Duty works. By the looks of it, is you level up a weapon. So you can pick, say, an M4, you can pick an AK, and then you can go into something called Gunsmith, where you can completely customize it. And I do mean completely customize it. On an example I gave for the AK is you can go from a traditional AK, extend the barrel and put a drum mag on, put optics on it, and turn it into a AK-16, I think, the LMG version. Or you can make it down to like an AKS or an AK, the short barrel version.
Yep,
lots of different optics. Yeah, the SU. So lots of different optics choices and things like that as well on it. So they've completely, the way they've made the game is you pick your weapon, you pick a weapon that you want. You can level that weapon through leveling the weapon or leveling with the weapon, because the way multiplayer works is you have levels for some strange reason. Unlocks additional optics, suppressors, magazine types, and things like that.
Well, that's very modern war realistic. And you can probably speak to this. Is when we were in, you weren't allowed to customize your weapon at all.
Hell no.
You had to turn that into the armory after every op, and But nowadays, that has totally changed. Yeah.
I don't know how the Canadians did it, but in the Americas, we had to, it had to look like it came out of the oilskin wrapper, when we had to turn it back in after field exercises.
Yeah.
You were in the armory it
is very Hollywood.
Cleaning that rifle after you got done using it.
Yep.
It is very Hollywood, the Call of Duty thing, but it is also you are supposed to be a tier 1 operator. So, that's the thing behind it. But they released the trailer in the and they put Metallica to the trailer. What else,
Okay.
They get points for that.
All right. I'll acknowledge it's a video game. I'll acknowledge that tier 1 operators are the in vogue thing right now.
Oh, yes.
However, what the bleeping hell?
Hold on. In the game's defense, are most tier 1 operators strictly military, or are they PMC/CIA/NSA? They might not technically.
In the new game, you play 3 different types of character. I think in the new game, or you're playing at least 2 different types of character. You're playing I think it's an SES operator, and you're playing a CIA advisor that's with the rebels.
Advisor.
Well, CIA it's look. All respect. CIA are civilians.
Yeah.
And what this is going to mean is that's probably your weapon, and because it's your weapon and you maintain it, you can do whatever you want to it. Yeah, you're not turning that back into a battalion armory at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's fantasy. It's fun. It's
It is. Yeah.
It just, when I see stuff like that, the light discipline going out the window. I'm like, are you freaking in? And these are SAS guys.
It's an old story, G. I mean,
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan, when Captain Miller is in the center of the formation and he's in a perfect wedge coming in silhouette over that ridge. I mean, come on. Private Miller, I mean, I'm sorry, Captain Miller isn't really that bad. Are you really just ready to check out at this point? You got a lot to live for, Captain Miller. You know, the German snipers are like, come on, it's too easy.
Yeah. That's it.
The full metal jacket at the end of Full Metal Jacket. These are Marines. You guys are embarrassing me, and they're walking silhouetted against burning buildings, singing Mickey Mouse themes. I mean,
I was going to say, it's that the Mickey Mouse scene. Yeah.
Yep. Silhouetted against burning buildings. You guys just want to die. Is it really
Which
that
was
bad?
the Docklands, which was London Docklands, because Stanley Kubrick wouldn't leave Britain at all. So it was all filmed in London.
Oh, well.
That's why I think
you work with what you got. Chris.
It's scary that parts of London look like that.
Chris, tell us what's going on, my friend.
What's going on? I'm playtesting the hell out of Ultra Combat Modern.
Hey,
we have played.
You missed the conversation. I didn't know I had the rules. I guess it was part of the Kickstarter. You got a PDF?
The initial. Yeah, but I'm play testing later versions of that right now.
How's it going?
Play testing. It's going well. We've hit a couple things that we've sent off to Colin to advise him that this has happened, and he is looking into those things. And today we are going to be probably upping our game to squad level with vehicles. And then tomorrow, I think we're upping the level to platoon level.
Awesome.
I was hoping to have my Empress miniatures by now, but my order has gotten lost. Like, big time lost. Can't
did you order,
find
Chris?
it at all.
That reminds me. Just today, I got some new Empress miniatures in the post, so I'm going to open them up and see what they look like.
Which ones did you get, Jim?
I was kidding around like his shipment came to me.
Oh.
Yeah. No, mine.
What did you order, Chris?
I ordered. They have the generic modern infantry with the AKs. I ordered ones with Mitch helmets. And I ordered the new. They're the female Kurd figures, but I ordered them so that I could turn them into women in the Ukraine, because there's a lot of women that serve in the Ukrainian. So I'm adding those to the squads. What else did I get? I got some AGS 17s, the automatic grenade launchers.
Oh, okay.
I got
belt fed 30 millimeters.
So I got and I got a couple 12.7 machine guns.
Are those the?
What else I ordered? I'll have to look at my order, but I
are those the
ordered
DSHKs or the NSVs?
So honestly, what's that?
I was just wondering if the 12.7s are those the older Dusks or the newer NSVs, like the big machine guns?
No, it's the new ones.
Okay.
The new ones.
Gotcha.
I got Deuce, but I wanted some of the newer ones. So yeah, we've been play testing that, and we've played a lot of Fire Team, and now we're playing Squad. And while we're working on, I realized I didn't have a lot of 28 mil scenery. I had a lot of 15 mil scenery. So we've been making a lot of 28 mil scenery, new stuff. And what else are we doing modern? Oh, I got a footsore order for modern. I've got Ukrainian civilians. Those are going to be included in some games. And I got some Yemen PMCs.
All right.
And I got Spetsnaz, which it's the older Spetsnaz they do. So I'm turning those into Ukrainian special forces. Yeah. So I think that's about it. And I'm looking for a house. That's about it for me.
Awesome. Well,
gaming at 1-to-1 scale.
Sounds like everybody's got in the oven. So we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank everybody. The next time we get together, we're going to talk about our first Wargaming weekend and some other things, and it'll be.
Is this Dust in October?
Our Weird War weekend. Yes.
There you go.
Yep. And
Cool.
I figure between getting some dust going and maybe some 6mm action there, Jim, we can have a hell of a Wargaming weekend.
I'm not coming if I can't bring Panzer Leader.
Oh, you have to bring it because I think I need to borrow. I mean, steal your copy because I think I'm missing something.
One of my 3 or 4 copies.
Sure, why not? So we'll get more information out to you guys soon. We want to thank everybody as always. We want to thank all our supporters, and I want to thank Jim for joining us, and Ralph and Chris. Sorry, bud, for jumping in late. I know you're hours behind us there in the old Great North.
Yeah.
We will definitely get a full show on next time. And if you guys are at Gen Con, have fun. Let us know if there's anything exciting coming out. I did talk to Kirk real shortly from Miniature Building Authority. He's having a really good show. So tell everybody out there, and again, happy birthday, Alex. We will see you guys in the next show. Take care.